We are live.
Greetings, strange humans, and welcome to the CjH Reviews, the prequel trilogy. So, my two guests here today are Ambassador. Well, you introduce yourselves.
Greetings, my friends. This is Ambassador Kosh, and I have always been here.
And I am Jeffrey Turner, aka Mega Jetty One, and I am the founder of the Terminator lore channel known as TechCom.
Excellent. So today, as always, we cast our minds back to a simpler time when movies weren't about agendas or this and that and the other thing. They were about entertainment. We go back and we explore movies of the past, present, and future. And today, we explore the prequel trilogy. So, what are your thoughts going forward?
Honestly, for me, the prequels were the first original Star Wars movies that I got to see in theaters, because I had seen the special editions a few years before the prequels came out, and that for me was the first time I had gotten to see all three of the OT films in theater and everything. Now, I had seen Return of the Jedi when it originally released in '83, but I was like 7 years old at the time. So this for me, the prequels were the first time I got to see Star Wars on the big screen when it originally released, not a special edition or anything else.
Yep. For me, the prequels were my first introduction to Star Wars. In 1999, I was only a youngster then. So, how about you, Mega Jetty?
Well, I growing up, I first got into like Terminator and Lethal Weapon because I was big into 80s action films that started in the were set in LA. Then I got my first Super Nintendo when I was like 3 to 5 years old, and with it came Super Star Wars. I loved playing it, and then whenever I visited my Mima's house, it turned out that she had the Star Wars movies that the games were based on, and so I watched them and I loved them, and I watched them many times as I could. I preferred Return of the Jedi. Nothing against A New Hope or Revenge of the Empire Strikes Back, but I really favored Return of the Jedi the most. But yeah, and then when I heard that they were being re-released in theaters but with extra scenes, the special edition, I was all for it, and it was awesome. The one I remember seeing more in theaters was Empire Strikes Back. And then the prequels came out, and I was psyched. And I especially loved how there was going to be 2 Jedi fighting one Sith Lord with a double-bladed lightsaber, and that to me was the movie. That was what I was looking forward to.
I still remember the marketing for the movie. The KFC ads, the toys, everything.
Yeah.
I think
You go first.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. You were talking
first.
One at a time.
It's not wise to cough over.
Welcome to the CjH show where we interrupt each other.
All I was going to say is I actually still have, sadly not in box, but I still have my Darth Maul double-bladed lightsaber from when they brought them out initially.
I remember my first Star Wars toy was an Obi-Wan figure, and you could like press the button on the back, and his lightsaber would go up and down.
Oh yeah,
and it came with like a mini lightsaber that you could attach to him. It was really cool.
Yeah, that was the first time that they'd actually started doing the lightsabers with and without the blade, and they had the little peg hole and everything, and they had it on the belt line where you could actually put the saber on the belt line. For me, it was the telescoping lightsaber went in and out of the arm, looked like a popsicle. A very
I
small
remember-
popsicle.
I remember. I think the first thing I wanted from when Phantom Menace came out was there was this little Obi-Wan action figure, but it also came with like a toy-sized handheld lightsaber with a mini.
Yeah, I
thin
think
blade.
that's the one that I'm talking.
Yeah, you could
referring
like
to.
press the button and it makes
Yeah.
the figure move because the figure connects to the saber hilt.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that was the one I had, I believe.
Yeah, holding the saber, the blade is the length of a dagger.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I think I know which one you're talking about myself.
Yeah. Yeah, Obi-Wan was my favorite in Phantom Menace.
yeah.
Mostly because he had the blue lightsaber.
Him
second,
him
because he
and
was
Qui-Gon
character.
were my favorites.
I'm not trying to be a contrarian here.
Yeah,
My-
no, it's fine.
My favorite, honestly, and was with Darth Sidious.
Wow.
Really,
Yeah,
that's an interesting take.
Even though he didn't
Well,
do much in
But
Phantom
see,
Menace, right?
you also got to think. When I was a kid, I didn't put 2 and 2 together for some reason. I was like, I was like, Palpatine. Oh, that's a completely different character. His name is Darth Sidious, and that guy's name is Palpatine. So I
Palpatine.
well,
Yeah,
no,
I had
no,
that
that
same
guy's
issue
name was
too.
Emperor. They
Yeah, I
didn't
mean,
say
I had the same
Palpatine
issue
name
because
in-
I remember in the marketing of Return of the Jedi that he was known as Emperor Palpatine. So I knew that Palpatine was going to be Emperor, but I also knew this Darth Sidious guy looked like the Emperor, but he had a
Mhm.
different name. I didn't put two and two together until like later on.
Well, here's
Yeah.
here's the thing for me, because this was the theory. This was a theory I had, turned out to be completely bogus, obviously. But
Sure.
I thought, and I think particularly after Attack of the Clones came out, that Palpatine may have cloned himself, or Sidious may have cloned himself, and was controlling Palpatine from behind the scenes or something.
That
turned-
sounds a lot like what's coming out for the
No.
newest movie.
Yeah, but my theory was actually kind of cool. There's
Yes.
their employment of it is just dumb.
They're- Exactly.
Uh-huh.
I mean,
But,
this was just a theory and everything for me trying to figure out, well, is this the same person because they both have the same chin, or is this different
Yeah.
people, or could it be a clone of the same person with the same chin, just one controlling the other, or vice versa? You could have
Yeah.
Palpatine controlling Sidious, or Sidious controlling Palpatine, and then poof, you find out they're the same person.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like, hello.
I know one thing that a lot of people get wrong, and I think it's because the media pushes it, is that Phantom Menace is the first. No, it's the first movie in the prequels that had more practical effects than CGI effects,
Mhm.
and a lot of people don't realize that because I think
I always
it
knew
might
that.
be the digital cameras that kind of alter
Mhm.
it.
I
Mhm.
guess that's kind of why I like Another reason I like Phantom Menace the most of the prequels, because it had the most practical effects.
Yeah, I think it even had more practical effects than the original trilogy.
Mm.
Well, not to mention it had a lot of sets and everything to it, and that's true for all three of the prequels. But the thing I think the point that some people had was, and I think this is something they don't realize, is the prequels take place in an earlier era within the Star Wars universe, and this takes place on worlds that could not be feasibly created, or you couldn't go to a place that kind of looked like the place, or you couldn't do what Lucas did with the originals and say, oh, we're going to go to a snow planet, it's all a snow planet.
Yeah,
Oh, we're going to go
you
to...
can't go and act on a volcano.
Obviously.
It's just not, obviously not.
So I can understand people's gripe about there being so much CGI, but there's no other way that you can really tell this story of the prequels where you've got a planet that's an entire city and you want to show said city. There's
Yeah.
a way they could have done this in the 1970s or even the 1980s.
Unless
And,
you have like the buildings of said city be all fancy like the buildings in Toronto, and then you just take a few landscape shots and copy and paste them all around.
Yeah, and well, and the thing that Lucas has said and everything, this is one point that he was disappointed with the Disney trilogy, is the fact there was no innovation, there was no advancement of the story. It all has remained
It's just another snow planet, another desert planet.
It's well, like, and not just that, you don't have an advancement of the technology in the world, because you have the thing you have to realize is if you parallel the technology in the universe with the prequels and with the originals, there is a carry through. There is an advancement, an evolution of technology within the Star Wars universe.
That's why he actually appreciated Rogue One, because it had that de-aging effect.
Yeah. I actually thought maybe there was a slight attempt at evolution within universe, because when you look at R2-D2 and compare him to like the R2 astromech units in like Knights of the Old Republic, you can tell there's a vast difference, because the one Knights of the Old Republic is a little bulkier and you know, but then when you compare both those two units to like BB-8, you know, it almost looks like an advancement. Astromechs are now smaller, quicker, more agile, don't take too much space.
Yeah. But honestly, I think R2 had more character and he could do a lot more compared to BB-8, but that's just me. So.
Fandom Collective just shared the stream, so hopefully more people will come on.
Cool.
But
if anything, what they should have done was, if R2 was gonna like lose his body or something, they could have like had his memories put into a new BB astromech body, and it would, you know, it would have the colors of R2 to show that it's still R2, but he's like BB R2.
That would be extremely controversial, though.
Yeah.
I think honestly it would fit within the world, within the Star Wars universe, because the one, like I said, the one thing that Lucas or anything had done with the prequels and the original trilogy is he had the technology in the universe advance, and not just that, but what they were capable to do to make the movies and everything, because you had to have a progression of technology in the real world and everything so that the prequels could be made. You had to have the computing ability. You had to have the CGI technology at hand and everything to create these fantastic worlds. And you had to have the CG technology to create some of the characters, because putting aside the annoyance that is Jar Jar Binks, if you look at what other characters that you have in the prequels, I mean, obviously you've got the droid armies, you've got the Geonosians, and you've got all sorts of other weird creatures and everything, and obviously different vehicles and everything.
Yeah.
Those would have been difficult to try and build models of, do practical models of everything and manipulate. Whereas you can construct, say, one of the Republic six-legged walkers in a computer and manipulate it to do whatever you want it to do and everything with far more ease than, say, what they did in Empire Strikes Back, where they used stop-motion puppets and everything for the Battle of Hoth with the AT-AT walkers.
I'd be curious to know if, like, I don't know if you guys saw the third episode of The Mandalorian where they had the battle droids.
I've heard about
if those were practical or not. So.
Well, here's the thing: there was only a handful of actual practical battle droid mock-ups that they built. Yeah. Because if you watch the making of episode 1 and everything, they do have a few mock-up, a few actual battle the B1 battle droids. But I think all the other battle droids that you see throughout the rest of the prequels and everything are all CGI, more than likely.
Yeah. I know that the clones are completely CGI, which is one of the gripes I do have with the prequels, is that they should have at least had one clone trooper that was like practical, and that way they could just clone that literally, and
Well, in a manner of speaking, you did with Jango Fett and the unaltered clone
Well,
Boba.
I mean,
but,
like out of universe, like digitally.
Yeah. Well, and that's because everybody was saying to Lucas, should we build a suit of clone trooper armor, or should we just do it all in the computer? And he pretty much said, it's not really necessary to put forth the money and the effort and everything to try and build a suit of clone trooper armor when we can just build in the computer and it doesn't cost us practically nothing. We don't have to put forth the time and expense and everything.
Which is ironic because nowadays it's actually cheaper to do it practically.
Yeah, because part of the problem with CGI, and I don't quite understand this or anything, is why it is so expensive to render stuff on a computer, because you're just basically sending stuff through a high-powered processor and everything and rendering it in a computer, which you would think doesn't cost anything, but apparently it does. Now I don't know if they're getting charged per megabyte or gigabyte or whatever, but that just seems kind of odd to me.
And someone suggested this too. Like you gotta think back in the day they had like extremely slow computers. So imagine trying to like build all this on those small, slow computers and like stuff like that. Like I think it's pretty impressive for the time.
So, well, and I think the one reason that Lucas wanted to go back and do the special editions is to see how far they had come with all the computer-generated technology. Because
they should have at least waited a few years, though, to add like Jabba the Hutt and stuff.
Yeah, because if you've noticed, now honestly, the Jabba the Hutt that I saw in the original theatrical release of the special editions, it looked okay, and I wasn't terribly off-put. I'm one of those people. I was not put off by the fact that they had this. They restored the scene where Han is talking with Jabba.
Now
there is
it looks
minor issue with it, though. It's kind of redundant because he's saying the same words that he said to Greedo in that scene.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I do understand that, but at the same time, again, it's not a deal breaker for me.
Yeah. Now a lot of people they'll assume that Coruscant first appeared on in the prequels,
but that's not. No, it
didn't.
That's not true.
In Heir to the Empire.
Well, that too. That would be but it first visually appeared in the special editions.
Yeah, it appeared in special edition at the end of Return of the Jedi and everything. When you have the celebration,
because they did have, I believe they had concept art that looked completely different.
Yes and no. The concept art that they had for Coruscant for that particular scene, it looks pretty close to what they did in the prequels. So it's anything. It's not a complete mismatch. Now the thing that they have done and everything in subsequent re-releases and everything of the special the special edition, now considered the standard edition, is they went back, and when you had the panning shot across that space and everything, you could look in the background. There are a couple of empty spaces. One and everything, you could see the Senate building and everything, and then there's another shot where you could see the Jedi Temple.
Yeah.
Which
I believe in comics and such in the lore, Darth Sidious actually turned into his personal home after
his own palace.
Yeah, he took. Well, there's some actually interesting lore and everything that goes back before the prequels and everything into the Old Republic.
I think I know what you mean. Like underneath the Jedi Temple, there was some ancient Sith artifact.
Actually, I think it was an ancient Sith temple or something along those lines.
Yeah, I think the Jedi Temple was built on top of it, and because of that, the that helped Sidious mask his presence and make the Jedi blind to visions of the future.
Yeah, over time and everything, as he was able to perfect his abilities and everything, he was able to do that.
Yeah.
So
one thing I gotta say is that the fight scenes for the prequels are extremely better.
Well,
and if not,
and the thing you have to realize is, one, you've got the Jedi and the Sith at the height of their power, and I actually have mentioned this in a couple of my videos I've done for my channel. You have the Jedi and the Sith at the height of their power, the height of their ability. You've got fully trained Jedi Knights, Padawans, Masters, and so on. So you can see them using their Force abilities and fighting with the lightsaber and everything, and it's not to put as some people have, a decrepit old man and a man that's half man, half machine, beating together a couple of swords. And again, you don't have a man who's half man, half machine again going up against a young kid that's only been half trained or anything. So I think the best fight we got in the original trilogy is honestly in Return of the Jedi and everything there at the end between Luke and Vader. But then you have this quantum leap and everything in the prequels where you are seeing the Jedi. You see Jedi there fully trained and at different levels and everything.
Now,
so
how would you rank the prequel fights? Like the Duel of Fates, the Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Anakin, or Count Dooku, or...
Well, for me, my ranking would go like this. It would be Sidious Yoda 1, Anakin Obi-Wan 2, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan versus Maul 3, Obi-Wan and Anakin versus Dooku 4, and then Yoda versus Dooku 5. And then I put, honestly, at the bottom of the list, the fight. I don't actually consider this a lightsaber duel, but the fight between Obi-Wan and General Grievous 6.
Yeah.
So that's my ranking.
How about you, Maggie Jetty?
I have to put the Duel of the Fates as number 1 because nothing against Anakin and Obi-Wan, but it was two Jedi wielding the same colored lightsaber, obviously in different colored clothing, but on a lava planet and whatnot. And it was just mostly just dragged out. But Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, and Darth Maul was unique because you had two Jedi, one with a blue lightsaber, one with a green one, versus a guy with technically 2 red blades, but it's really one red blade, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And
see, I would put the Obi-Wan and Anakin fight first because it has such an emotional... it's two brothers basically fighting each other, a master and a apprentice. And the music definitely adds to it, and that's the other thing is John Williams' music probably saves the prequels.
I wouldn't say necessarily saves it. I say it would definitely enhance it. It definitely enhances it.
It enhances it. Yeah, that's a better term.
Yeah, I'd say the music, because John Williams has been doing movie scores, working with Lucas or Spielberg at some point in his career, going back all the way to the 1970s. Because one of the I'm trying to remember. He did the score for the first Superman movie, and then he did Jaws, obviously. And John Williams has had steady work from the 1970s up until now, because he did the score for Episode 9. So honestly, I still have all
newer scores aren't that impressive, other than maybe Solo.
There are some musical cues in the Disney trilogy, but
like Kylo Ren's theme is pretty
and Rey's theme is a nice theme.
Yeah.
And I also do like, despite how much everyone may not like the scene, the music that plays when Han Solo dies.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was just an emotional bit. And I do like how they did reuse the Burning Homestead theme in when the moment, Rey got the lightsaber. But sadly, when you in retro,
that was another thing that was like a little off-putting is them reusing themes. I know that the newer this episode 9 coming out, they used the Duel of Fates music.
Yeah, that was more
it's-
annoying to me. That annoyed me.
That makes me mad because honestly, that music is iconic to the prequels specifically.
Yeah,
because
it's almost as if it's trying to draw in nostalgia.
And yeah, but here's the thing: they could have used the Duel of the Fates if the people making these movies were not such prequel haters.
Exactly, like JJ hates prequels.
Yeah, I mean, and he won't give any credit to them because it's like his work is perfection, nothing else. Not even.
Yeah, and if someone points out like a prequel reference, he'll go back and edit it out.
Yeah,
like there was a pod race flag in the trailer for Force Awakens, and he went back and edited it out.
Really, he did that?
Yeah.
What a jerk!
Oh, hey, Jens.
Yeah, right, CJ. Ambassador, Jeffrey.
Prepare for some British humor.
Good grief.
Yeah, you've been listening and that before I came on. It's like saying about the best lightsaber fight scene, which is like the end duel between Obi-Wan and Anakin, which I've got to agree from a technical and stunt work and the length of that fight, it is one of the best fight scenes. And then I think my second one is with
even the music for Battle of the Heroes is phenomenal.
Yeah. The dual thing.
It's kind of a mixture of those.
Yeah.
Themes.
Well, and then to talk about Star Wars music, there is an epic sort of sound to where even the crap Star Wars sort of soundtrack is still good because it's like orchestra and that sort of
Well, they composed it over in London, didn't they? I believe.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. Well, the London Orchestra back in the 80s, and that was like one of the best orchestras, and so they used to use quite a lot of the London orchestras for stuff.
Yeah, but Megan J, getting back to what you were saying about Mr. Abrams, I actually did a video yesterday, quite literally, obviously yesterday, and I acted as a prosecuting attorney, setting up my case that, J.J. Abrams is a cinematic hack and a cinematic copycat. And I don't want to go on it. If y'all want to watch it, it's over on my channel.
Yeah.
There. That's my plug.
That's your plug.
You might want to put it in the chat because I think I got it. Is it the one where with blue and gold on it?
No, it's it's under my channel name, Everything Ambassador Kosh. Hold on one second. Let me pull it up. I'll put it in the private chat. I think because I can't put it in the public.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just give me half a second.
And I'll just copy and paste and put in.
Yeah.
If my mods were in the chat, they'd be able to do it.
But yeah, as I was
there's that train.
That's on my end. Sorry about that.
I know.
Yeah,
we don't have trains here anymore.
Oh, train.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I was saying about my lightsaber duel, I gotta go with Duel of the Fates. Nothing against Anakin and Obi-Wan. It's just we didn't expect a fight like Duel of the Fates when that came out. We were expecting, Anakin versus Obi-Wan at some point, but Duel of the Fates was something we didn't expect. And if it wasn't that duel,
even Gamble will be on in 15 minutes.
Cool. But well, I think honestly, while the duel and everything at the end of episode 1 is epic, I think you reach that zenith of awesomeness, for lack of a better term. Oh, shut up, you stupid train. Yes, we hear you. Go away. Sorry, I'm like 4 or 5 blocks away from
yeah, it's all right.
The railroad
Yeah.
crossing.
It adds to the realism, I guess.
Yeah, I found it's quite a soothing one. Is then the electric, so.
Yeah. But honestly, I think the fight between Yoda and Sidious is probably the best. It's not just a pure lightsaber duel. It is a battle between two masters of the Force, be it light or dark.
It does start off a little cheesy, though.
Honestly, I think that actually plays to a little bit of Palpatine / Sidious's character, because honestly, he is a bit cheesy. He is corny, but honestly,
I am the Senate.
Honestly,
I reckon that's been.
I think that is an interesting aspect of Sidious / Palpatine's character, because he can crack these one-liners 1 second, and then the next minute he's shooting blistering bolts of force lightning at you and electrocuting your sorry butt. Sorry, Mace Windu, you're toast. Sorry, Luke. Sorry, Luke, you're toast. Sorry, any other poor unfortunate soul that ticks off the dark lord of the Sith. You are toast. It's kind of like a point I made and everything in a video I made today talking about great villains of the 1980s. And the first one I actually listed was Freddy Krueger. And
I've waited a long time for this moment, my little green friend.
I honestly like that line. I can't help it. Because
I think not. I was going to say, I think not. They get Palpatine to be one of them characters where you do want to say he's so arrogant and like.
That's one thing about Ian. I don't know.
Ian McDermott.
Yeah, he brings a lot to that character.
He does.
Yeah.
I think that George Lucas may have originally intended that fight between Yoda and Sidious to be in Return of the Jedi, but since they couldn't do it at the time, that's why he's instead found a way to work it in.
No.
Actually, Megan Jetty, it wasn't. That was supposed to be in Revenge of the Sith.
I think he planned to have a flashback with Obi-Wan and Anakin, maybe, because the novelization has a flashback. So,
but actually, I don't know if most of you probably heard of Star Wars Theory.
Yeah, I'm familiar with him.
He actually did. This was just
a fellow Canadian.
Yes, that I know, because he mentions it on a few occasions. Not too long. It's been maybe a month or so ago. He actually did a series of videos where he goes through the original script or the original storyline for Return of the Jedi. And actually what ends up happening is at the end of Jedi, the Force ghosts of Obi-Wan and Yoda appeared there on it's not the second Death Star, it's there on in
the chamber, in the throne room, basically.
Yeah, it's in the throne room and everything. Yeah. You got it, Mega J, right on the nose.
Yeah.
Everything. So I think honestly, I think that fight between Yoda and Sidious at the end of Revenge of the Sith was supposed to be there in the first place, because you need to have that moment there, because this is the crowning moment of the Sith's achievement and everything of destroying the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
Because even though Sidious doesn't kill Yoda, he breaks him.
He won, yeah.
He broke him mentally and you could say spiritually.
Yeah.
And everything. And that's why you see Yoda's so dejected and so broken down when he leaps into that speeder being piloted by Bail Organa, and he's like, "I have to failed. I have into exile. I must go."
Yeah.
Hey,
Stories by Irish is in the chat. So
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah, I saw her. She had commented tweeted on a couple of your tweets today. So
yeah.
but trying to get kids to bed, I feel for her.
Yeah.
But Ambassador Kosh,
Yeah,
I just found your. I clicked on the link to your channel. It's
Mhm.
just, but I got a video. The Fandom Menace v. CjH Abrams. Is that it?
That's it.
Oh, okay.
Mhm. I changed the title
Yeah, and
because honestly, I wanted it to have a little more zing. Because originally it was just the case against J.J. Abrams. I'm like, this doesn't work. This needs to be bigger.
Yeah,
Because
and
I rake his sorry copying butt over the coals for a good 30 minutes, just like any good prosecuting attorney would.
Yeah. It's like how I originally was going to have this stream as Phantom Menace only, like episode 1 only.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of branched it into all 3.
And
that
honestly,
way
I think
can, like, well, plus StreamYard gives me the limit, so it kind of helps me cram it all into the one video.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I noticed your icon on the on your channel is a little different from what's on here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's my podcast.
Oh, I was referring to Ambassador Kosh.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't use the same one necessarily. Everything I like to customize. I have it's a clip art. Everything I found on Google, everything I liked it, so I used it for my channel icon. And I like this one because it's actually a clip from the TV show Babylon 5.
Oh,
and I think it's of Ambassador Kosh. He's he's a favorite character of mine from that show because it's one of my favorite shows.
We're learning the origins of your name.
Yep, pretty much. It's a short origin. It's from a TV show that I watched back in the 90s.
Yeah,
and it's a great show. It's actually, I think, one of the best written sci-fi shows of the last 20 some odd years.
Yeah. So would we all agree that Attack of the Clones is probably the worst of the prequels?
I wouldn't go so far as the worst, at least in my opinion, because when I first saw that movie in theaters, everyone was applauding by the end of the movie.
I think it's got the worst name, though.
Well, yeah, that because they're not really attacking, are they? They're more defending.
They attacked at the end.
Well, they're defending the Jedi.
Well, they're not defending the Jedi. They're fighting alongside the Jedi, so they technically are attacking. And there's actually a reason why Lucas picked that title and why he picked the title for all 3 of the prequels and everything in general.
Reminiscent of old films he used to watch with similar titles.
You got it. So he was going for that nostalgia-esque feel.
That Flash Gordon type.
Flash Gordon, Buck Rogers-esque type of feel. And honestly, the title didn't bother me. I thought it was okay. I mean, I will agree that there are parts of episode 2 that are bad, but
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and gets everywhere.
I will say this: I liked Padme a lot. You know, if you ask me between her and Leia, I'd have to flip a coin because obviously Slave Leia's hot, but Padme's also a nice person. It's like basically this: Padme's the one you marry, Leia's the one you want to bang.
I guess.
But there was some issue with the writing of her character in Attack of the Clones. Like,
welcome to a late night stream with the CjH.
The moment that Anakin stated that he slaughtered the Sand People, including the women and children, like animals, and
I'm like, he just falls in love with that. It's like, Okay.
I mean, on one hand, yeah, you understand why he did it because his mother died because of them, but
Yeah, but why? It's like I just slaughtered a bunch of people. Oh, let's get married.
Look, she
Okay.
told Padme she thinks it's just them like sand people, isn't it? But once you like realise he's done the younglings in, then that's when
Yeah.
she's like, oh, I think, yeah, the marriage is off. But yeah, with Princess Leia,
here's what I was
Yeah.
thinking. I think the
We're being
reason why she said that line was because even though she did not approve of what he did, she wanted to try and comfort him to make sure he never did something like that again.
Yeah.
yeah,
But
Because I
then
think
all of a
there's
sudden, 3 years later, she hears of the younglings, and that's when she realizes she
Go
made a big
ahead.
mistake marrying him.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because like, yeah, with them
Or
sand
when-
people and the sand people
Or
are all
when
like,
he force chokes her. It's like,
And that's the
Oh.
worst part of all is that Padme really got the short end of the stick in all this because the democracy she fought for, it fell. And then the man she loved turned out he didn't love her so much as he wanted to control her. And she got denied her right to be a mother because she gave birth to Luke and Leia, but she didn't get to live to actually be a mother to them.
yeah. I
Wait,
think,
Luke and Leia got ripped off in that regard as well.
Yeah.
I know
Well-
a lot of people, they'll say like, oh, she died of a broken heart. They never actually say that. They say she's lost the will to live.
I may have a
And
theory.
actually, there are a few theories out there that cities actually use the Force to kill her.
Yes. I've
My-
seen that theory,
actually,
and I really
because I mean, here, well, first off,
no, I think.
here's the thing.
I know Nerdvault used to have a video for that, but he took it down. I used to love his like conspiracy.
Because if he had killed if he had killed Padme in order to preserve Anakin, then it would have killed the children as well, and he would have had to have known where she was. What I think it was.
That's a good point.
What I think what it was is Force Bond. And anyone who remembers Knights of the Old Republic remembers that one with Bastila and Revan, how they developed a bond.
Yep.
That's what it was, is Padme developed a bond with Anakin, and as he was going to the dark side, that bond was hurting her just as spiritually and all that.
But
So
here's the problem, Jay, with that theory and everything. Because you're talking about a force bond between two
Her
force
last word
sensitive.
is there's still good in him.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, she knows that, but I mean, it's like because he's falling to the dark side, experiencing so much pain, and I think that was physically affecting her. You know, if not physically, then at least spiritually. And the pain that he felt she was feeling it too, and it was too much for her to handle.
It's possible.
But I think just with after giving birth and that to twins, and then getting choked or and that is a bit too much for her. I think her body just like gave up, thinking, "Oh,
because I mean, the droid doctors, even though they're droids, they're not into this whole spiritual stuff. They said medically he's completely healthy. And I refuse to believe she would lose the will to live because, hello, she's giving birth to 2 children she needs to live for. So,
but in circumstances, like if the pain is too much, some people, because if some people break a bone or something, where other people can live through it, but some other people can't if they haven't experienced that pain. And so it can send some people into shock and kill them, where other people, and so it could have been like that, where she was like in shock that much that she.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't think
actually,
it was the shock of giving birth. I think it was the combined shock of giving birth, the fall of the Republic, and the turning of her husband, combined with the fact that she might be experiencing mentally the pain that he was suffering physically.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys can see this.
Yeah,
she makes a good point. And
yeah.
And I think because actually, Anakin's intentions are pure when it comes to Padme. He wants to genuinely protect her. He's not trying. He is not the controlling type at first and everything. But once he falls to the dark side, he does become the controlling type, obviously,
Yeah, but
and everything. And once he see, here's the pitfall of becoming a Sith, by manipulating the Force in ways that, well, as Sidious says, would be considered unnatural. Is you come to realize
natural.
he doesn't say it like that, but
I know.
whatever. Well, whatever. But
Which
thing,
was also a great scene too. The whole
the upper
Plagueis scene.
house,
Yes,
yeah,
upper house scene. Oh,
that's
yes,
hands down probably the best scene in the whole saga.
well,
Yeah,
yeah,
Oh my
because
God,
it gives you
don't say it
so
like that.
it gives you so much world building and everything, because you get this backstory on this character that you don't actually see in the movies, but there's a whole book written about and everything with Darth Plagueis. And everything. Not only is Darth Plagueis' story, but it's also Palpatine's story as well, because this is when Plagueis is training Palpatine
Mm-hmm.
and everything. And it's almost like I think the best equivalent to anything in terms of, well, we consider Legends now, is the Darth Bane trilogy, where you have him, you have Darth Bane and everything setting up the rule of two, setting up the new Sith Order and how they're going to operate. Stories by Irish? Yes, absolutely. Palpatine played off his fears is ultimately what happened. Yeah, because
gain control of him, wasn't it? And then once he'd got control of him, that's when he started making him do things that he won't normally do.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
Well,
you're
here's-
also coming off like the Clone Wars, where he lost his own Padawan.
And speaking of Clone Wars, I was actually going to go to that. Another thing is the second episode of the Zillo Beast arc is a perfect example of how Padme and Anakin just were not meant to be, and they rushed into their marriage, because when they were arguing over what to do with the Zillo Beast, Anakin was siding with Palpatine over Padme, his secret wife. So
because at that point they were married.
yeah,
because
they were already married.
Clone Wars,
They tried to be discreet in how they agreed on things, but he didn't agree with her at all on that. That was a telltale. And she even confronted him on that.
And I think, I think there's a little more nuance to it and everything in terms of Anakin. Yes, he's siding with Palpatine, but he's also being very pragmatic here. Because
sorry, we have a. Yes, I don't know how long you were in there waiting. Were you waiting long?
No. I was only in there for about less than a minute at this point. Hold on.
Okay. Awesome. So yeah, we were just Kosh, you can continue where you were.
You have to realize about Anakin. Yeah, he agrees with Palpatine's position, but the thing is, he's trying to do what he feels best for the clone army and the clone troopers that are in command underneath him. If they're able to reverse engineer armor off this little beast or anything that would be a benefit for the clone army and for ships, that's going to make the Clone War end sooner and everything, and give the Republic the edge that it very much needs. Anakin, and I think this is one great aspect of the Clone Wars show, it gives you this idea that yes, Anakin was this great warrior, but he was also he was a good strategist, and he also was he also cared about the clones.
Mm-hmm.
He also cared more about he cared about the clones very deeply, more so than the other Jedi did. And because the clones and everything, the other Jedi and everything, in some instances, viewed the clones as nothing more as tools to be used, whereas Anakin actually viewed them as people with their own personalities, thoughts, and positions.
Yeah.
And that's something that was very endearing to the clones and to Anakin. Well, it's something that endeared the clones to Anakin, because oftentimes, as you saw in the Clone Wars TV show, when they're in the middle of the battle, Anakin's right there at the front lines and everything with the clones, whereas some of the other Jedi, except for maybe Obi-Wan, would be hanging back at the back of at the rear and everything, commanding the clone army. Now, obviously, with Yoda, he's so advanced in age and he's so darn short and everything, he can't get around all that well. But Anakin was right there in the thick of the fighting with the clones, and this is something that the other clones, in particular the clone commanders like Cody and Rex and so many of the others that worked with him, they came to respect him, and it made him a much better leader from their point of view.
Yeah, and speaking of the clones, that's another thing I feel we never got resolution to is, Rex was more like Anakin, whereas Commander Cody was more like Obi-Wan. And yet, by the end of the Clone Wars, it was Cody who followed Order 66 with Anakin, whereas Rex abandoned Order 66 and all that, like Obi-Wan.
Well, actually, what ended up happening, and I might be off.
Are we talking new canon perspective, or are we talking
maybe
here?
both?
All right, that's fine. I'm
okay. You can jump in.
Oh
yeah, please.
Oh, go on ahead, Kosh.
Okay. What ends up happening with Rex and a couple of the other clone troopers and everything, I think it's Gregor and Wolf. You see them, I think it's like in season 2 or 3 of Rebels.
Yeah.
What they ended up doing was actually removing the organic chips that were implanted in them when they were being bred there on Kamino. And that's why they never followed through with Order 66.
But Cody
as with
not. But Cody, of course, did not remove his, right?
No, Cody still had. If you watched what they called, it was season 6 of the Clone Wars, the Lost Missions.
I know that General Fox ended up following through as well.
Yeah, now there is some legend stories, I think, where there were some clone troopers who did not follow through with Order 66, and they actually
even can add to that if you want.
Yeah, please, by all means.
Okay, for that stuff, it was mostly, I will say, that most of the clones that didn't follow in the Legends continuity were commandos and ARC troopers, some units that are more independent than the standards. However, I don't know, since in Legends they never really technically explained if they had microchips in them as well, or just the baseline clones did. So that leaves that all up into interpretation there, whether how you see that.
Well, we know that that over the course of the Clone Wars, there were some clones, one in particular, I don't know if he's ever named, who actually ends up leaving the Grand Army of the Republic and everything, and he actually settles, I think it's on Ryloth or some other planet, with a Twi'lek woman and her two children.
Cutler Quartz. He went AWOL, I think, during some sort of
like
battle.
The battle of Geonosis.
Yeah.
And if I recall, there was a story. There was a comic about a clone trooper who was injured in battle, and then he woke up after the purge.
Oh, that's a different one. I think that's Abel. He was found by Luke.
There was Abel, and then there was
no, in Legends I'm referring to.
There's quite a few. Abel was essentially Rex in the new canon is essentially what Abel was in Legends.
Oh.
Where he's part of the Rebel Alliance and he has the training and everything like that.
Yeah.
There are a few clones that have went AWOL. Again, Cutler Quartz.
I think there was one that only followed Vader or something.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to think of, but I cannot.
I think it was actually Commander Fox or anything that was based there on Coruscant and everything that ended up being one of Vader's lieutenants.
Yeah,
I could be wrong.
That's in the new canon, though.
Oh, is it? Okay.
But see, here's my thing. Cody and Rex seemed to be very tight. Same unit, even though they were different faction, two different battalions.
Yeah.
But what I mean is, like, we never saw a resolution of that. I mean, we saw what became of Rex after the Clone Wars in Rebels. But somebody pieced this together. I can't remember if it was Star Wars Theory or somebody else, but somebody pieced together, and the one
Rebel Commando that is there on Endor at the mission on
Oh,
Endor.
I think the clone was called Hawk Malsum, or it was CT5539.
I'll have to check that. CT5569?
No, 39.
39. Sorry.
That's okay.
But yeah, what I'm trying to say is we never saw what became of Cody after the Clone Wars, and we never saw an encounter between Rex and Cody post Clone Wars where they went to opposite routes and they might have to fight each other, kind of like Obi-Wan did.
Actually, in Legends, there was a brief mention in the Force Unleashed 2 video game in the Data Bank files where Cody was, after the Clone Wars, he was sent to Kamino to train
new cadets.
New cadets, yes.
But we don't know.
But in the new canon, there is no answer to what happened to him.
No.
Well, you can make the argument that maybe he just, because you have to remember the one downside of the clone troopers is they were artificially advanced in age and everything to grow them quicker. So
but
that caused
a chemical that can reduce or.
I mean, it's possible that Vader could have killed him eventually.
I feel as soon as the clone troopers, I think this is what they'll take the route in new canon, is that at some point they'll do something like a clone trooper kind of purge where they get, as soon as, the army is large enough, they gradually execute clone troopers.
I actually think there's a way they could do that, because I mean, they always called it the Clone Wars, plural. Yet we only ever saw one, and that was the 3-year stint between the clones and the separatist droids. There should be a second one in the 19-year gap between the prequels and the O2. And that should be
they kind of did that in Rebels. They had stormtroopers versus clones.
Yeah, but that was like a small skirmish on Kamino in the Battlefront 2 game.
Well, I think
about a few years.
Oh no, in Rebels I was referring to.
Oh,
well, I think, and I could be mistaken here, and this could just be my own theory, but I think the reason it's called the Clone Wars plural is because it takes place on so many different fronts.
Yeah,
because you've got clones fighting on multiple fronts, and that could just be something that could just been a mispronunciation, or it could have been deliberate by Obi-Wan, and obviously because on the TV show it's called the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
And everything. Yeah. So I don't think it's so much that you had multiple Clone Wars. You had the war between the Republic and the Separatists, and then you had some other war between the Empire and the clones themselves. I think it was just the fact that you had such a large scale war on so many fronts or anything. They just called it the Clone Wars or anything.
I guess I just would like to see one where Imperials versus clones, and it takes a few years, and in the process, that's when the Empire realizes they gotta stop using clones and start actually recruiting some old recruits, and only the loyal clones may remain.
And
I
honestly,
think that's what they did in the new canon.
Is pretty much what they ended up doing and everything. Is they relegated or they semi-retired the clones or anything to training positions or guard positions and everything in like the deep core or something.
Or in Commander Fox's case, just slaughtered by Vader.
Because didn't Fox screw up? Didn't Fox?
Yeah, he screwed up and tried to fire at Vader.
But I mean, it would make sense, like maybe right after the clone, like maybe 2 or 3 years after, Revenge of the Sith. I mean, some of the clone troopers that didn't follow through Order 66 ally with some clones that did, but were regretting what they did, and then they decide to rebel against the very Empire and such.
Yeah,
and that's a possibility
because they introduced that stupid chip idea.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, that was. I think that the organic chip was deliberate. I think it was supposed to be there from the beginning and everything, because that's just about the only way that you could control an army that large.
Yeah.
And
I don't know what Evan's thoughts on that are. Like, I know for me, like the betrayal of the clones adds to it. But
Mm.
like, what's your thoughts?
I'm what? Hold on. Let's see. On what exactly? Sorry, I'm checking a message really fast.
Yeah, no problem.
So you're asking me about the clone's betrayal. Like, what do I think of
Yeah,
that?
like I know that the expanded universe fans don't exactly like the chip idea because it kind of contradicts what the expanded universe is.
Yeah,
laid out.
I'm personally not a big fan of the chip idea, but I'm one who's like, it's fine. It's not my favorite retcon, but it adds a reason to it.
And it gives
Versus-
some clones a chance of redemption or something like that, right?
Correct. It makes the clones
Not seem entirely evil.
yes, and
Well,
to a degree, I feel like that subtracts from them having a Mandalorian origin in Jango Fett. But since they have a history of hating the Jedi, I think it subtracts from that a bit. But
if I remember correctly, the expanded universe said that that's why they have the outfits that they have, the armor, because it's based on Mandalorian armor.
Yes,
it is.
It's it's the Kaminoan armor smith's version of
The Mandalorian armor.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, the thing you have to realize is you don't want from a purely logistical aspect, you want in particular if you have the mentality of, say, Sidious, you want a failsafe in there that cannot be fooled or undone and everything easily. So having that organic chip embedded in or implanted at the point when the clones are created is a logical step.
Which is ironic,
and the other
that the whole scheme almost came undone because one chip got damaged.
Well, but here's the other thing too, because they picked the best bounty hunter they could find in Jango Fett, and he is fiercely independent, fiercely single-minded. Well, I don't want to say single-minded. I think fiercely independent.
Single-minded after a swing by Mace Windu's purple lightsaber.
Well,
it's definitely headless.
Well, you've got obviously yes, but kind of getting back to my point.
Yeah.
That independentness and that single-mindedness of Jango Fett was something that they were going to have to mitigate somehow or another, and just simply training it out of them wasn't going to do it, because this is something that's hardwired into Fett's DNA, and that having that organic chip embedded in the clones gives Sidious the control that he will need eventually down the road, once all the pieces are in place for him to execute Order 66, and also later on down the line or anything will allow him to keep control of the clones and everything until the Empire gets enough recruits into the Imperial academies and everything. Because the thing you have to realize is Sidious is trying to take control of the entire galaxy, or a good chunk of it, and just leave the rest and everything to regional governors and everything. And to do so, you're going to need a very large military. So there is a big span of, there's several years there where they're trying to build the Imperial war machine. And you have to have the clones as your bridge and everything between getting non-clone units built and trained and everything, and having ships and everything. Because they honestly, what they ended up doing with the Republic Navy is they retrofitted and everything a lot of the Ventnor class carriers and everything into what would be known as the Imperial Navy. And you had, over time, you also had the Republic military become more decentralized from simply clone commanders commanding other clones, where you had non-clone commanders commanding the clones in battle and everything, because slowly over time, if you notice throughout the Clone Wars TV show, it wasn't so much other clones that were commanding the troops on the ground, and it wasn't the Jedi commanding the troops on the ground. You had non clone officers in charge, and that was deliberate on the part of Palpatine / Sidious, because eventually he knows that the Jedi are going to be gone, and he's going to need somebody to take up leadership of the Imperial Navy and the Imperial Army.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's mostly also deliberate for if you put a clone in charge of, the whole fleet, some will think differently, but others, they will not, some will think the same in how they should go about strategy. You have officers from, all across the galaxy who is able to put a plan in place based on, what they were taught on their home worlds and local militias and everything like that. And when you put them in positions of power, and you have Palpatine who can pull their strings and bring them to bring them higher up in the command chain for following his orders, you already have a centralized command structure where he has full control. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I see, because the thing with clones is they are built to take orders, not give orders, and so it is hard for a clone to get out of that sort of mindset, I think. Unless it's getting orders, it's not all that much of a thinker.
Right, unless you have independence training, which is ARC troopers, command, like any special forces unit or general commanders. But generally, the run-of-the-mill soldiers, they mostly think, single-mindedly. Sure, they can develop personalities. They're not droids. And that's what actually this is what I praise TCW for versus the EU, where EU really didn't delve that deep into the individual clones themselves, and they kept it pretty much like they're humanoid droids to a degree. And I think that TCW really brought, personality of these clones to the forefront. That doesn't necessarily mean they're all independent thinkers or whatever. It just means they have opinions and they, see things and they have a personality.
And another problem with the clones is another clone could easily sort of take his place, and it's be harder to tell if it's a clone or not, if they all look the same,
Right.
Yeah. So back on the prequels, I guess. What are your thoughts, Ivan? Or
Evan.
How do you say your name?
it's Evan. And it's fine.
Yeah,
it's cool.
I'll just say a holocron keeper.
That's reserved for Leland Chi, but
yeah.
But I kind of have that title too.
So what are your thoughts on the prequels? I know everyone here has kind of.
I think the prequels are fundamental to the entire saga. And this is what I say, and people are going to give me hell for this, but the prequels, if you compare it to a library of whole movies out there, the prequels aren't that good of movies. However, when you take it into, the whole larger galaxy of the Star Wars saga, that's part of the story. You have to if you don't like the prequels, then how are you liking Star Wars? Like the original 6 movies? Because without those prequels in place, you're not really, I'm going to say this and someone's going to take it out of context. You're not a Star Wars fan if you don't like the prequels, because the prequels are,
it's one big movie, in it, from 1 to 6.
They feel like Star Wars versus the newer stuff.
Yes. Amen, brother.
So the thing there is it's all interconnected. And this is the thing with George Lucas was, he's gone on record saying that there is no 7, 8, and 9 because he didn't have plans because Star Wars, the movies were.
Well, he had a plan, but I think it took place after Crucible.
Maybe. But the thing is here is that Star Wars, his movies are about the rise and fall of Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader. Again,
I agree.
But
The chosen
originally
one.
it was about Luke Skywalker.
Well,
Right.
it's more about the chosen one.
Go on, Kosh.
You could even make the argument that episodes 1 through 6, everything, even though you don't see him for a couple of movies, is very much also the story of the rise and fall of Palpatine and the Republic and the Galactic Empire.
Yes.
Now, yes, obviously the 6 movies do center around Anakin very much so, but you can't have Anakin's origin without Palpatine there in some respect, because he obviously tells that story in Revenge of the Sith. And a lot of people have corroborated or come to the conclusion that what he's telling Anakin is essentially, I helped create you with my master. Because him and Plagueis and everything had learned how to manipulate the midichlorians or manipulate the Force to create life. And that's how Anakin came into being, and that's why Shmi tells Qui-Gon in episode 1, there was no father. I carried him, I gave birth.
That she knows of.
Well, obviously there was no, and I know some people roll their eyes, and I'm one of these people and everything, because I don't. It is somewhat offensive, but not overly so to my Christian faith that you equate this and everything Anakin's birth to the Immaculate Conception of Christ and everything.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to get. I don't get bent out of shape over it, because you're talking about science fiction here and everything.
Science fantasy.
It's technically a space opera.
Yeah. So,
by the way,
Star Trek is sci-fi.
Yeah. So, but
talking about the space opera, I see like Star Wars as like the first 3 is like the sins of the father, and then the other 3 is the son trying to redeem the sins of his father, sort of thing, and like a bit of a soap opera with family.
I kind of
but lightsabers and space battles and action in it. So yeah, they're not just sat there on a couch just talking about it. Yeah.
I always hated the Star Wars movies, the 6 movies, as like the first 2 out of 3 parts of the movie Excalibur, because when you compare Star Wars to the Arthurian legend, there's, it's so similar, because in Excalibur, 30 minutes are about Uther before you even get into Arthur. And then the movie about the rise of Arthur, and then the last part of it, the whole Grail, Rise of Mordred, Fall of Arthur, it's like the end. And that's kind of what I thought the Disney trilogy was going to be about. But no, they didn't care about lore. They just wanted to sucker us in for money and tell their nonsense.
Yeah.
Essentially. Well, as one channel has put it so eloquently, Star Wars episodes 1 through 6 is a modern myth. Now, obviously, it's based on mythological themes and everything by that one historian and everything, Joseph Campbell.
Joseph Campbell.
But Star Wars, for my generation, and obviously for the generations after mine, and for even the ones that existed before me that grew up watching these movies and everything, this is a modern myth. It's been put in book form. It's been put in film form. It's in multiple mediums. This is not much different from what other civilizations have done before we came into existence with modern myths for them. Star Wars is a modern myth, and what Kathleen Kennedy and J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson have done has, in essence, desecrate our modern myth.
Ruin Johnson.
Well,
Yeah.
the Jedi was sort of like becoming a bit of a religion, as in people was sort of like following the Jedi way, as in like.
Yeah.
I think
Well, there were people there were people that were inspired and everything, especially once the expanded universe started up and you started getting more lore about the Jedi and everything. That, while granted it was not canonized formally by Lucas, it held within the established mythology, or what would be eventually built as the mythology of the Star Wars universe, the canonized version, and people started to follow a form of the Jedi code and everything in their own way.
It was canon,
So-
though.
Yeah,
It was canon. But here's the thing: how Lucas looked at it, and I actually made an infographic which is being spread around, and that is George technically only followed, which was canon was broken up into multiple categories, but he only believed what, in his opinion, what was canon was his 6 movies.
yeah,
And the Clone Wars TV series, and it was going to be also Underworld along with his production notes. That's what he believed.
I think his view was more, he would tell his story and he would allow other people to play in the same sandbox.
Yes.
Yeah.
so long as
it's
they did nothing to mess with the core of the story.
Yes.
well, it's kind of the same
So
thing.
he would focus on the core of the story and everyone else.
Right.
Yeah, little spin-offs.
And this is the big lie that Lucasfilm nowadays is propagating, that it never was like Legends was never canon, and stuff like that. That's not the case when you have multiple, like you have a whole guidebook dedicated to Legends and the movies that was put out by DK Publishing.
Yep.
And
Written
the
by
thing is,
none other than Pablo Hidalgo himself,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
He wrote.
I have
he
not.
wrote the Essential Reader's Companion, and Pablo. I don't like to trash talk people for the most part, but Pablo is I don't
probably
know,
the biggest
he's a traitor.
hypocrite.
Yeah, he's a hypocrite and a traitor to the fandom.
So Lucas Group continuity even before the Disney buyout.
It's traitors.
And now he's like, it's like he's the superstar because George is out.
Right.
No.
And all Pablo has done has ridden on the backs of people. Like in all honesty, the only reason why he's in the position he is in today was from Sansweet, Steven Sansweet, who runs Rancho Obi-Wan.
Sansweet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sansweet. Gosh,
That's okay.
Yeah. He's only there because of that. And Pablo wrote for West End Games back in the day, and that's how he got into Lucasfilm and Star Wars, was through Sansweet. And through, those
Skid's
books.
comic is in the chat there. So,
but that's how he
yeah.
got here. I'm not gonna say Pablo can be lazy sometimes, yes. And to me, he did an interview on the Star Wars show I watched. He just comes off as like one of those people who's like, I know everything, and I feel like, you guys should bow down to me. It's like,
yeah, and then he blocks people that confront him.
Jerk, because this guy even contradicted George Lucas, because if you all remember at the end of Empire Strikes Back, that when the heroes were resting, they were watching as the Falcon left. It was like they were leaving the galaxy. But he said because it wasn't spinning at the right speed, a galaxy would naturally spin.
So here's the thing with that. It's like, this is how I look at it. It is, I think, the galaxy in Legends, but in all honesty, you would never be able, you'd have to be really far off, like outside the galaxy, to see that kind of view. I honestly like Pablo's kind of retcon or whatever they did, where it's a protostar or something like that.
Mhm.
I just don't
Or
like
it's a
that.
nebula.
It's for one thing, it contradicts George, and second, I don't think that was meant to be the galaxy. I think it was just one of the
No.
orbiting galaxies because if you remember in
It has a few.
in
orbiting
Attack of the
galaxies.
Clones, there's like the overall big galaxy, and then surrounding it there are some smaller ones, and I would think the smaller ones would spin a little faster than the bigger one.
Right. And here's the thing about something else. Pablo is just kind of an ass. However, I do like Matt Martin, though. He's just, people have his opinions on him.
That's putting it lightly.
Well,
Yeah.
if you want to talk about assery or ass holiness,
And he's a Canadian like me, but
I think we've got the grand poobah
very Canadian like.
of ass hats in Mr. Abrams.
Oh,
Because
God. Mr. No original bone in his body.
Yeah, that's actually Evan. I mentioned this. I actually did a video on this. I built a case and everything against J.J. Abrams, like a prosecuting attorney would.
Oh God! It sounds like the people versus George Lucas.
Yeah,
if you guys
but
have heard of that.
I think the people versus George Lucas,
J.J. Abrams.
Oh God!
Yeah, Well, I titled my video "The Phantom Menace versus J.J. Abrams" because I thought honestly had more zing.
Oh, you probably will.
Honestly, I'm not technically part of the Phantom Menace myself.
Well, nobody is really.
Well,
it's a hashtag.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Well, yeah, it's a hashtag, but I don't know.
I know.
I'm part
just
of the
don't-
Phantom Menace, so
Yeah.
Everybody's heard of the Phantom Menace.
I talked to
at this
Ryan.
point.
I talked to Ryan Kinnell and Lethal Lightning, stuff like that, and I'm friends with them. I've always just taken the stand of where I'm not going to really associate with any group. If I like you and you're nice, I will talk.
Mhm.
yeah,
And my opinions are my own, and I will call
exactly.
out
And
bullshit.
that's, yeah.
Well, the only
that's
one that I
kind of the
communicate.
stand of what Phantom Menace is, right? It calls out the
Yeah.
bullshit and all that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because the only one I communicate with on a semi-regular basis is Overlord DVD.
Dick
Everything.
and Doomcock.
Yep,
Oh, Doomcock.
that's the one. Yep, that's the one. So
I have a fan theory that he's secretly William Shatner.
Oh, boy.
well, actually, here's the funny thing. He not too long ago did a car video with Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers,
Yeah.
and I don't know if anyone saw it and everything.
I did because
It could very well be. But here's
Yeah.
the thing: he's jumping franchises here because Mr. Shatner is very much entrenched in Star Trek, and he's going up against Star Wars, and the voice isn't quite right for it to be Shatner.
Well, to be fair, Shatner was at the AFI Lifetime Achievement Award ceremony for George Lucas because, believe it or not, Star Trek and Star Wars have a symbiotic relationship. I mean,
well, they would have never made the movie Star Trek had Star Wars not come out.
Oh yeah. That is fact. If Star Wars had never come out, they would have never done Star Trek the motion pictures, much less any of the other ones.
Yeah, and if Star Wars wasn't a success, you can bet Star Trek would have just been some '60s TV show that never would have
gone anywhere.
Continuation.
And we never would have gotten TNG, DS9,
or the trash show that's on now.
Yeah, some people call it STD.
Well, that's what they decided to label it the moment that they called it Star Trek Discovery.
I would just like to say that, like Doomcock and Jerry, I'm big fans of them and that. But to think about the Phantom Menace, I think if you've done a YouTube clip or a tweet or anything, slagging off, or not even slagging off, just disagreeing with Disney's producers and that, you become a instant fandom menace sort of
Yeah.
category.
Well,
Because
most of these people kind of label us that way anyway. So
Yeah, it's
well, yeah,
mostly just-
they lump.
it's us
they
because
lump-
we don't like that they lie to us. They say they're doing this for this reason, but it's really just a load of crock. And worse, they claim to care about the story, yet they're not telling a very good story themselves. They're sacrificing.
Yeah, Kush was gonna say that. Say what you were gonna say about labeling.
Well, they're doing this to make it easier for them to target anybody that dissents against their position that everything that comes out of Kennedy film is solid gold. In fact, it's a solid gold turd, much like those gold edition twin packs of the original trilogy characters, and also the prequel trilogy characters. And everything. I don't know if anybody has seen them or anything in any of the
just
Walmart or Target or anything.
Painted gold, aren't they?
Yeah, they're not actually. Somebody misunderstood me. I don't know if it was on a live stream or something, but somebody thought they were actually 24 karat gold. I'm like, no, they're they're gold colored.
They actually did that for
24 karat gold, selling them for $20.
Yeah,
screw it, give it to me. I'll pawn them off.
They had 14 karat gold C3PO in Lego.
Yeah, I remember that. That was when I was a kid when they ran that promotional thing.
Dang, I wish I had gotten one of those.
There was only like maybe, if memory serves,
it was one in
like
a million or something.
Yeah, it was one in every so many million or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Good luck trying to find one.
Yeah, like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory gold ticket.
I think it came out alongside of Revenge of the Sith. It might have.
It was for the it was for the 30th back in like 2007.
the 30th.
Oh, was it for the 30th anniversary?
Yeah, let me try and find it.
2007, I think.
Yeah, it would have been.
Star Wars has been around almost as long as I've been alive.
So,
since before I was alive.
Well, I think I'm the oldest one in the chat. I'm 41.
Limited edition of 10,000. There was 10,000 of these. Let's see here. C3PO. I'm gonna like check which year this was.
You can share the screen if you can.
Yeah, 2007. I'm on like the Lego wiki.
Yeah.
Yep, I was right with calling that. But yeah, Lucasfilm. If you ask me, Kid on the Playground when I was, back in 2005, when Revenge of the Sith came out, would I have ever expected, number one, new sequels to come out? Because George essentially said I was done. And number two, did I expect Lucasfilm to just, slowly disintegrate in a pile of its own filth at this point?
Well, no. I think George was kind of setting up for Episode 7 and with the Lost missions of Yoda visiting the Wills. And Crucible set up the whole idea that he almost found Mortis, Luke did, and he went off to exile.
Right.
Yeah, because if you think about the storyline with Yoda and the Lost Missions, that's not your atypical Star Wars story. But honestly, I thought it was one of the most interesting ones that they had done and everything in the Clone Wars series and everything, because you do get bits and pieces and everything throughout the 6 seasons and everything, that there's a more mystical aspect to the Star Wars universe than what we have seen and everything. You get it with the Mortis storyline, and you get it with Yoda's missions, and I think there's another bit and everything somewhere in the Clone Wars TV show. If not in Clone Wars, then definitely in Rebels, where it's not so much them fighting in space with laser swords, but where they're dealing with a more mystical aspect of the universe. And honestly, I thought that was actually really cool, and I would have been fine if they had done something like that in movie form. So instead of the Disney trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was saying before and everything, the one really interesting part of Revenge of the Sith is the fact that you get that scene and everything between Palpatine and Anakin there in the opera house and everything, and you have this incredible scene where you have this world building, and you're thinking, "Dang, I'd love to see this story."
Yeah.
Or see the people that are involved in it in a story and everything, because obviously you know that it's Palpatine talking about what he did to Plagueis and everything, because that is the rule of two. That is the rule of the Sith. One has to die for the other one to ascend.
Correct.
And obviously, I don't know exactly. Evan, you might be able to answer this.
All right, right on me.
At what was Palpatine training Maul when Plagueis was still in the picture, or did he start training Maul after he eliminated Plagueis?
Okay, so this is actually a really good kind of question. So, Palpatine trained Maul when he was training under Plagueis. However, here's the kicker.
Mm-hmm.
He trained Maul as a Sith assassin, which is not essentially a Sith Lord, more like an underling to a Sith.
Yeah.
So
Kind of like his brother.
That's why
in the Clone Wars.
Yes. So essentially, this is how he subverted the rule of two, and Plagueis allowed it. It's like he will become a very good servant to you, and everything, and to trick Maul, because I don't remember off the top of my head if Maul knew about Plagueis. However, he gave Maul the title of Darth, which is associated with the Dark Lord of the Sith, just because, to fool Maul into thinking that he was a Sith Lord.
Yeah.
That he was his equal.
Yes. And that, once Plagueis was out of the picture, I'm sure he would train Maul up to be a full Sith, Dark Lord of the Sith. However, that title was pretty much meaningless to Palpatine. And to Plagueis as a whole, that he had that title.
Because you obviously have Asajj Ventress and everything. Of course, you have Dooku. But the interesting thing with Dooku is we never see in either the movies or, as far as I know, in the TV shows, his eyes go Sith yellow and red.
I'm trying to think. I think there was a small scene in, TCW,
there was one moment.
But nothing, no. Because Dooku never fully embraced the dark side of the Force.
No.
Palpatine, Dooku played it close to the chest. Dooku never embraced his anger. Dooku always thought, he was a in-between for Palpatine between Maul and Anakin, because Anakin, as soon as Episode 1, and he knew Anakin was the chosen one, and him and Plagueis brought about him, he set his eyes directly on him. So he needed an interim, which was Dooku, who was powerful enough and had influence throughout the galaxy through his resources as count of his entire world, and his...
The world's called Sereno, I think it is.
Sereno, yes.
Sereno, okay.
Yes, and he also used leverage as, a former Jedi as well to rally people to his cause, saying, the Jedi are corrupt. I've seen this. I was a part of their order, but I left. I escaped their... it's that kind of stuff that makes it... Dooku never really was as powerful as... a full-on trained Sith could be. But he was led to believe that he had power and he could overthrow Sidious.
Well, because I don't think it was so much his plan to overthrow Sidious, because if you read the novelization of Revenge of the Sith, the plan that I think Palpatine and Dooku come up with.
I love this guy's name.
What?
Okay.
What?
The
Oh,
guy
it's,
in the chat.
oh, it's what an ass, what a bitch, what a cuck.
Oh
What's
yeah,
up, man?
he's been in several other streams that I've been part of.
Yeah, he's been on, I think, one of our book clubs, because me and Ryan and a few, and Lethal and Callum Johns, we do a EU book club. I think he was on that. I could be wrong though.
But the long and short of it is, the plan was, once they were able to defeat the quote unquote defeat the separatists and defeat the Jedi, Dooku was going to take over as head of some sort of training academy or something along those lines.
I mean, Dooku already had that in the form of the Dark Acolytes in Legends, where he had multiple kind of not secret apprentices, but he had apprentices to do the dirty work.
Like Asajj Ventress.
Yes, like Asajj Ventress, Tol Skor, Sora Bulk, just kind of former Jedi who, who wanted to become either more powerful, left the Republic for certain political reasons, and didn't want to be affiliated with Jedi because of that.
Yeah,
stuff like that. And he used them as assassins and stuff to that nature. Dooku, we see this in the Clone Wars, where once Savage becomes his apprentice, so to say, he essentially tells him that you will rival, under my training, you will rival the late Darth Maul, and then together we will overthrow Lord Sidious.
Yep.
So he has, again, as a Sith Lord, you always have to have that in the back of your mind, that is your end goal. You need to, yes. However, I don't think the plan was...
The Sith will eventually betray each other.
Yes.
Yeah, Shakti says that in Force Unleashed 1.
Yes. The thing is that Dooku probably had no plans to do it until after the war was done. And Dooku was not cued into how the war would end.
Not entirely.
Yes, not entirely. He was told a false truth.
Like that, though. They never attack until they think they've got a good chance of succeeding. And so until Dooku had enough sort of confidence that he'd be able to get rid of the Emperor, he wouldn't have done it. But yeah, if he ever got the chance, definitely they always take it. The one who's hungry for power, aren't they? They're always wanting to go up the ranks.
Well, basically, one of the tenets of the rule of two that Bane set down, or anything Darth Bane set down, is one to embody power, one to crave it. And that's honestly, that was a common thread throughout the entire rule of two and everything time span. Is you had one master, one apprentice. Eventually, the apprentice would supplant the master, or the master would kill the apprentice and take another. Because what ends up happening in the Darth Bane book trilogy is
there are a master and an apprentice.
You see this in the Darth Bane trilogy, and anything really beforehand involving Sith, is that the Sith will, if you have a large amount of Sith, they will undermine each other, try to go against each other, and try and gain favor with whoever is the current Dark Lord of the Sith, thus dwindling their numbers.
Yeah,
anyway.
It reminds me of that saying that a man with power, obviously, it'll be a person with power. What does a person with power want? Wants more power. Yeah.
All who have power crave more.
I can't remember.
Those who crave power
I just watched episode 3 the other night too.
They're losing it.
Oh yeah.
All who have power. I can't even do it.
Yeah.
all who crave power fear losing it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But essentially, the Sith Order before Bane was essentially just...
It was a mess.
It was a mess. Vitiate made it work. However, there was so much infighting. If you guys have ever played,
No, but I've watched enough. I've watched enough videos on the Old Republic MMO and everything that I know what you're talking about.
Oh yeah. The exact quote was, "Remember back to your teachings, Anakin. All those who gain power are afraid to lose it, even Jedi."
That's
even
true.
The Jedi.
Well, and I think the only true Sith that ever actually had even like 90% right were the ancient Sith, which were the Jedi that were driven out during the Great Schism. Anything before I think it was before or shortly after
Darth Malgus and all that.
No, I'm talking way about
way back.
I'm talking way back. I'm talking about when you had the Great Schism between the Jedi
Dawn
Order.
of the Jedi.
Yeah, Dawn of the Jedi and everything. You had the Great Schism, and you had the war within the Jedi Order, and you had certain Jedi that were trying to learn the ways of the dark side and everything, and use it to their own ends. And you had the other aspect. You had the other side of the Order who wanted to stay away from the dark side as much as possible. What ends up happening is those Jedi and everything, the one side of the Jedi Order gets exiled, and they eventually come into Sith space. They come to Korriban, and over time they interbreed with the Sith people, or the Sith race and everything, which is where you get your red-skinned aliens and everything that you see in the Dark Horse comics and everything, with the Tales of the Jedi and the Golden Age of the Jedi and so on, because you come in with the Golden Age of the Jedi miniseries and everything. I think it was like a 6 or 7 issue series. Yeah, Golden Age of the Sith. You've got this Dark Lord of the Sith and everything, and he's a I don't like to use this term, but it's the best term I can. He's a half-breed of a normal human and a Sith and everything, and he's been ruling over the Sith for like several hundred years.
I wouldn't even call him a half-breed. I'd just call him a hybrid. It's
hybrid. Yeah, hybrid works. Hybrid's better.
Yeah, it's a lot less.
Yeah, he's a hybrid between the original Jedi that came to Korriban and the Sith people and everything, because he's got human characteristics, but he's also got the red skin. He's got some of the scaly aspects of the Sith. So,
that was Naga Sadao and Marcus.
Yeah,
Marco Ragnar.
The Sith pure blood.
Yeah, he was as close to a pure blood Sith as you could get and everything, because he wasn't his lineage.
He was called Vindican, I think.
Is
that how you pronounce it?
Vitiate was after.
Vindicant. No,
Vitiate was at the same time. It was just he laid in the shadows while they fought. The Sith Lords fought each other.
Yeah, because
in the shadows.
The first named Dark Lord and everything that we have in Legends and everything, or what is Legends now, what was originally was on a certain level canon, was
Ajunta Paul, or was that King of Death?
Ajunta Paul was actually, I think he was one of the original exiles. Yeah. I think Ajunta Paul was one of the original exiles from the schism.
Yeah.
Let's see. Naga Sadao and Ludo Kresh were the two rivals that were fighting for the title of Dark Lord of the Sith. Marco Ragnos had been Dark Lord of the Sith for, I think, several hundred years and everything. When you have those two Republic explorers come in, the Dragnos siblings.
Yeah.
I can't remember the first names. It's the brother and sister, the Dragnos twins and everything. They're hyperspace explorers, and they accidentally come across the ancient Sith, not the ancient Sith, but the Sith Empire, and basically it kicks off the first Great War between the Republic and the Jedi and the Sith Empire at that time.
And I'm going to tie this back into the prequels really fast. This Great War, if you know that scene in Revenge of the Sith where Anakin, like Palpatine reveals himself to Anakin.
Mm-hmm.
In the background, you see this kind of like sculpture mural thing.
Yes,
And
I know
that's
exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
And that is of that conflict.
Yeah, because I think again it was Star Wars Theory. He did a video on that mural because Palpatine, I think, is either Palpatine or it was Plagueis or anything, had collected a lot of the Duarte statuary that you see throughout Palpatine's office.
Yes,
Anything there.
Palpatine was quite the collector.
Yeah, he appreciated fine art, and particularly anything that was related to the ancient Jedi or ancient Sith and everything. And that's actually that's a neat aspect of Palpatine's character because he came from a very refined, cultured family. So,
and then spoiler alert, then he just brutally murdered all of them.
well,
I just realized Jen's was gone.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know what happened there. I don't know if my tablet's getting overheated, but yeah, it just cut out there. So yes,
I don't know. I put the link in the chat if Jack wants to come on as well.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah.
But yeah, I'm actually gonna have to bounce in like 10 minutes. But,
that's all right.
Before we do ours, just a few things I'd like to bring up. As you know, I mentioned how we never got that resolution between Rex and Cody after the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Another thing we still haven't gotten resolution for. What happened to Barriss Offee?
Okay, so I can answer this. So, as
hello there, Jack. Your mic is muted, by the way.
Barriss was originally supposed to die in that one episode. I think it was the last one of the Ahsoka arc in TCW. She was originally supposed to die, but Filoni decided that he could use her later on, so he didn't end up killing her. So that was the original plan, was her to die. In Legends, it's kind of weird because she either dies during she dies in either Order 66. And that was through one of the Reversal of Fortune comics and the Revenge of the Sith comic book series.
Yeah, I remember that. She got blasted by one of the walkers.
Yes. However, Leland Chee, who's the keeper of the Holocron at Lucasfilm, he honestly has said he cannot see how Barriss could be accepted back in the Jedi Order by that time, and thus her fate is overwritten by TCW.
Okay. So as far as we know, she's still alive, but Filoni hasn't decided what to do with her, if she's just going to remain in a prison cell on Coruscant, or if she's going to become one of his Inquisitors.
I feel like this is how I feel like it'd be. If she was still in prison, I can just say like the guards just the clones just going into her cell and just executing her.
I was always under the impression that she had become one of the Inquisitors because wasn't one of the female ones modeled after her or bear the very strong resemblance?
I think so, in Rebels.
Mostly the thing is,
same species
Inquisitors were actually made up of former Jedi Temple guards who
the first Inquisitor that we meet is, yes.
The rest are just Jedi who left the Jedi Order, who really resented them, people who turned after Order 66, just those kinds of things. But generally, the Inquisitors are made out of former Jedi.
I know that in canon, there's another Jedi that was on the Council who left the Jedi Order that ended up having a kid.
Ethkoth.
And they were... Is that what it was?
Yeah, it was Ethkoth. Which, I don't know, I didn't really like that too much, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah. Well, that would be the new canon, so it's kind of weird.
What I'd like to know is if you were to combine both the Disney canon and the EU, if there are Inquisitors and there is Starkiller, do they see him as a rival of sorts?
Okay, so there are Inquisitors in the old continuity as well.
Okay.
Starkiller, essentially, the Inquisitors in both, I think, were both trained by Vader, but not to that high of a degree. They were kind of their own thing in Legends. Whereas if you had Starkiller is higher, as the Inquisitors generally are, their power is kept in check.
Yeah.
Meaning that, the Emperor and Vader do not want them to become too powerful and overthrow them. Starkiller, on the other hand, was trained as a true apprentice to Vader. So he's
And
not
that was
burdened
before he learned about Luke, right?
Yes.
Correct. And then Vader betrayed him once the Emperor knew, and it's like, oh, cool. This is my life now. I'm going to die.
Yeah.
So essentially Starkiller would most likely whoop the Inquisitor.
His microphone wasn't working, so
Oh no.
apparently.
Sorry to hear that.
Check the wire if there's a connection and it's a bit loose. Sometimes.
Yeah, 'cause sometimes whenever I'm trying to hear things on my headset, I wonder why I can't hear anything. But then I realize the plug got a little dislodged.
Yeah, I realized that like if I use Chrome on mobile, it works better.
So yeah, so basically, would the Inquisitors be like envious of Starkiller and try to take him out so they can gain?
If so, Starkiller would probably just kill them. Starkiller's got more training in him than they do.
So they would respect him, but it would be a begrudging respect.
They could try. Inquisitors will literally fight each other, to gain position in the system. It's kind of, but they would be fools to go against Starkiller. If Starkiller went against, if one of them went against Starkiller, this is how I could see it happening. They went for Starkiller. Starkiller would probably literally kill them. The other Inquisitors
is pre-clone Starkiller, right?
Yes, this isn't.
I kind of don't. Part of me wants to accept Clone Starkiller, but at the same time, I don't. That's a gray area for me.
So I guess I should ask this: why do you not accept that?
Well, here's the thing. On one hand, I can, but on the other hand, I can't. On the one hand, if you kill Starkiller off and replace him with a clone, then it kind of takes away what made the original Starkiller good. But at the same time, I feel like the clone is different from all the other attempts at cloning Starkiller because this particular clone was chosen by the spirit of Starkiller to be his reincarnated body.
That could work, but
also that he was able to take down Vader.
Yeah,
which is kind of
there actually is another perfect Starkiller. Well, perfect to Vader. This one, the other one that had the memories, not so perfect to Vader, but that's Starkiller. There was another one that was
the Dark Clone at the end of Dark Side ending,
and he isn't, that isn't just non-canon. He literally does exist, and I feel like he would have probably come into play in The Force Unleashed 3 along with Boba Fett.
Yeah, and then it would be good Starkiller versus evil Starkiller in a battle to the death.
Yeah, and then Vader would probably get away because
well the Dark Side ending kind of kills off Han, Leia, and all others.
And that's another thing too. That Dark Side ending of Force Unleashed 2, it actually did. It killed off Han Solo, and I think that's the thing. I think CjH
they killed him off the exact same way.
Exactly. He granted he had to pull him close to him with the Force, but still ran the red lightsaber through his chest.
Well, that's why I'm thinking like Rey and all of them are clones, because I feel like JJ might be stealing from Force Unleashed too.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
doing,
So
That would be
9.
giving-
he's
that
doing
would
the
be
same
giving
thing
him
that
too much
Ryan
credit.
Johnson is doing.
Yeah,
He's
too much
doing
credit.
that.
Oh,
Copy and paste.
I'm honestly thinking these leaks are true. That I don't know if you guys have read them.
Oh, Evan,
Yeah.
The leaks are pretty much true. They
I
geeks-
know.
Geeks
Well,
and Gamers and Clownfish and Gary and Neurotic and everything, as well as
They didn't have to
They
tell me.
can deny it all they want. It got out.
yeah, John Boyega left his freaking script underneath his bed and somebody swiped it,
By the
tried
way,
to sell it on eBay.
what is going on with this making StarWars.com stuff? Are they just
All
Full
the
of
leaks
shit.
that he does. I don't know how he gets his leaks.
well?
Probably
He was called out. He was called out by Trevorrow.
Yeah,
It's like-
I know. One of the few leaks that I got was like for the Resistance TV show back when I had my page.
I can't watch Resistance.
I
Just
can't
hearing how
either.
that Star Wars girl.
Well, here's the good news: Resistance no longer exists.
I mean,
Well,
it does.
Yay.
I mean, it does, but it's gonna be off the air soon.
Well, either
Yeah.
way,
That
I
didn't last
can't
long.
even watch it on Disney Plus. I'm like, I don't even want to watch it.
in the immortal words of the Borg, resistance is futile. But in this case, the resistance is futile.
The one that's not futile is Tech.com Resistance.
If you are a part of the Resistance,
If you're
Terminator, Salvation.
Resistance.
Yeah, kind of circling back around to where we started earlier.
Yeah.
Heck, the Terminator universe resistance could probably whip the crap out of the Star Wars resistance.
Is it
Yeah, what
bad
we're
that-
talking about off
Under that matter.
screen.
Under that matter, I think the Terminators, if they existed in the Star Wars universe,
they do?
I think there are certain factions they can take down.
There
I think
literally is like a little kind of Terminator. There
Yeah.
are two things, like the Yuzon Vong look just like Terminators, and you also the Yuzon Vong
Well,
Warbots.
I can't remember what the guy from Marvel 108 is called. He's like a Terminator-ish.
Yeah, Valance. I was about to bring him up.
The attack drones always reminded me of like real cheap crap Terminators.
But what I mean is, like, if you took the actual, Terminators from the movies and put them in Star Wars, I think they can take out most clone troopers except for clone commandos and ARC troopers. They can wipe out most of the battle droids, but be challenged by the commando
What
droid.
about xenomorphs?
Destroyer
Do you
droid.
think they
Oh,
would?
Vader could destroy. Anyone could destroy a Xenoverse. I mean, you got freaking laser technology.
Well,
You got
obviously,
lightsabers.
most Jedi and Sith can definitely destroy Terminators with ease with their lightsabers and the Force. But I mean, in like terms of
Yeah.
armies,
No, I mean like aliens, like xenomorphs.
yeah. And I think the stormtroopers definitely would never stand a chance against Terminators. And same goes for the Resistance and the First Order. But I do definitely believe the Rebellion can definitely give the Terminators a run for their money.
Maybe the Gungans can.
Oh, the Gungans could definitely give the Terminators a hard time.
Boomba.
Well, yeah, because they've got those EMP bombs and everything that they use against the droid army. So
yeah,
they would have the Gungans would have a decent chance against the Terminator, definitely, because heck, of all the armies and everything,
Infiltrator being used to try and assassinate Padme in Attack of the Clones.
Say one more time, Mega Jetty.
Oh, I could definitely see a Terminator Infiltrator, the one with the skin, like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I could definitely see one of those targeting Padme in Attack of the Clones.
That could happen. Yeah, of course, it wouldn't have lasted 2 seconds against Anakin or Obi-Wan, truth be told. Or even Jack.
I think more than one. It would definitely give them a hard time,
Yeah, I would give them a hard time, but honestly,
just use the Force.
Yeah.
Yeah, but remember also they got to make sure it's going to be hard to tell if it's a Terminator if it's covered in flesh. Remember, the Force can detect living beings, but not beings.
Arnold is pretty robotic.
Well, honestly, if you remember and everything in the
Some of them guards are.
in the new
That-
in the new Jedi Order and everything during the Yuuzhan Vong War, the Jedi actually adapted and learned how to read where the Yuuzhan Vong was because they were able to detect where the Force did not exist. If there was a void in their perception, then they realized, oh, there's a bunch of Yuuzhan Vong over there. Let's go and kick the crap out of them.
Yeah, but I mean, in like old Republic era during the prequel era, they wouldn't have that ability.
Well, I think even in the prequel era, some of your Jedi and everything, if not all your Jedi, I think they had that effect or that ability to a certain degree because Obi-Wan puts it very succinctly that.
Hey, Ruthie.
Oh, is that Ruthie? Okay, I've heard of her. I've heard of a lot of people, just never talked to anybody.
By the way, Jeff, I just posted a link in the private chat in case you're wondering about something.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
So those are essentially like Terminators of Star Wars.
Yeah.
I actually saw that, and it's an awesome one. Especially, it's cool that since they obviously don't have phased plasma rifles, they instead have blaster.
Still plasma, but yeah. Oh yeah, mounted on their arms. Yeah. Sorry.
Well, there was a ancient race and everything that existed in the Star Wars universe prehistory that actually built essentially an unstoppable army of battle droids that they used to conquer a good portion of the galaxy until the Hutts and everything built a coalition with a bunch of other races and essentially, what was it, the Zim?
It was Zim's warbots. I have to.
Yeah, Zim's warbots. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, that was in the Han Solo adventures, one of the.
Yeah, that sounds. But I know they brought those back or anything during the Yuuzhan Vong War and everything because they realized that
weren't they in Jedi Apprentice?
They might have been. Now I know for a fact that in the Empire at War expansion, Forces of Corruption, one of the end credit scenes and one of the end scenes and everything is actually one of the characters locating the Zim Warbot cache on an asteroid or something, and they intend on using it because the droids look exactly like the Zim Warbots that you see in illustrations and so on.
Interesting.
Yeah, I actually played through both the Empire at War and Forces of Corruption. I still have it for my laptop.
I need to still play through that campaign. It's just so hard.
It's a lot of fun, though.
Yeah.
It is a lot of fun.
Okay, I'm gonna head out now, but I just want to say
we're 2 hours in anyway, so I think we could probably wrap it up.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
That's fine with me.
Yeah. Ed, do you want to plug your channels and?
I mean,
I'll go second last.
Okay.
I'll go first, Ed. Yeah.
Someone go before me because I need to know how we're doing this before.
Well, let's go. Start with Kosh, and then Jens, and then Even, and then Mega Jetty.
Okay. Well, you can find me on YouTube, everything under my screen name, Ambassador Kosh. I'm currently at 83 subs and everything, looking at getting maybe 100 before the end of the month, or who knows. I cover pop culture of the 80s and 90s, and I'm actually going to be starting doing live streams. I'm actually going to be doing one this weekend. I think, CJ, you said you were interested in joining.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if any of you guys want to join in too, I actually have we're going to be doing a Christmas special. We're going to talk about all the old school Christmas specials that have been popular throughout the last couple of
what day
years.
was it again?
Saturday.
Okay.
Saturday
This
at
Saturday.
this coming Saturday. It'll be
Okay.
at 7 Central Standard, CST Central Standard Time, my time. And everything.
Okay,
So
awesome.
it'll be an hour. It'll be an hour behind y'all. And everything. And you can follow me on Twitter at Rogue5778. So that's me.
Okay.
Your favorite
Jens?
Vorlon.
Jens, you're next.
Yeah, channel. I haven't got much new stuff, but I've got some like old stuff on it. But my newest one I've done is a blue tack, which is just like plasticine, what you put your posters up on the wall with. And I've done a little baby Yoda. I don't know if you want to have a preview. I can put the camera on and like show you
sure.
it.
Yeah, show us Boda.
Yeah,
We love Boda.
yeah. Hey, it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Everybody loves Boda.
Except for Ryan Kinnell.
Well, he has no sense of fun. And you can tell him I said so.
Just go.
I
Yeah.
will. I'll message him right now. I'm literally in a group message with him.
Tell him he's got a stick up his butt and has no sense of fun.
Okay.
Right. Just see this camera. Let's see video. Yeah. There we go. I think this is the one. See. Don't know if you can. Because
Well, kind of blurry, but okay.
yeah,
There.
we go.
Oh, okay.
Boda!
Yeah.
Boda! Boda!
Yeah.
Boda!
Like not great because like and the I zoom up real close, but like on this camera, it's not looking too bad. It's like
No, it almost with the lighting, it looks like Darth Boda.
yeah. Well, yeah.
That looks like a rotting corpse of Yoda. I'm joking. I'm joking.
They did.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gone blue on it. It does look like it's suffocated. But, yeah. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Spoilers
we used-
for season 2.
yeah,
Oh god.
Oh, we are so demented.
It comes with the territory.
Yeah.
This is true.
So, even
There.
you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. I have a YouTube channel here on YouTube, obviously. Holocron Keeper Evan. I also have my. Actually, it's not even pulling up the full thing, but it's fine. Just Holocron Keeper Evan. I do mostly Legends content videos. I just posted a video the other day on the continuity of Star Wars Legends and how it all works.
Sorry.
Oh, you're good. You're laughing at stories by Irish.
Yes.
Oh god. Yeah. So if you want to know more about Legends and stuff, my last video goes into a bit on that. So there you guys go. I'm trying to post twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Haven't been doing that. Keeping on track with that though, but I'm trying. So
Well, Evan, you got a new sub right here, bud.
all right. Thank you.
And Mega JD, you're last.
Okay. I'm Jeffrey Turner, aka Mega Jetty 1, and you can bet on that. And you can bet that I also have a second channel called TechCom, which basically deals with my love of Terminator lore and all that. So yeah, if you want to subscribe to both channels, feel free. I try to do a variety of things on my personal channel, but I'm in the process of setting up the TechCom channel, so this way any Terminator fan can go there and see how much I love it. I'm actually in the middle of getting an introduction video finished and should have it up by the end of the night.
Awesome.
Nice. By the way, I tagged Ryan in like the group chat. I said, Ambassador Kosh says you have a stick up your butt and to lighten up. And Lethal Lightning says what? And I say it was a joke. And he says take his black hole, Evan. I don't know what that means, but okay. I don't know.
Yeah.
If you're gonna insult
And
me,
of course,
You're gonna insult me. Do it properly, for heaven's sakes.
Oh God.
If you're gonna insult
And
me, have it
of
make sense.
course, and of course,
ahead.
I'm the CjH. I have my podcast is on Anchor.fm.
I'm glad I'm not the only one
It should be.
use Anchor.
Yeah. Maybe we can do an interview sometime on my podcast. But yeah, and obviously there's this channel, and I've been trying to do a lot more actual videos. It's more about like editing all the videos together. It kind of takes a little bit of time, but story of Irish is still laughing. But yeah, and that pretty much wraps it up. Anything else you guys want to,
I'd just like to thank you for letting me come on. That's all I've got to say.
I did also forget to say that I try to consistently do streams on Saturdays. I'll have to do mine on like early afternoon Saturday because I'll be working in the evening. But so yeah, if anyone wants to come on there, feel free. And also the CjH, thank you for having me on.
Okay. And
it was nice to meet all of you.
The feeling is
Yeah,
mutual. Megan Jenny, trust me.
So as always, oh wait, Jen's, you got
Yeah,
one
well,
more.
I say thanks, CJ, for let us on that.
Yeah. Okay. And as always, we'll see you in the next one. Happy streams.
All right. We're off the air? No, we still